Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive display screen in Earth's command center, watching 17 red dots where green ones used to be. Each dot represented a human colony, a place where families lived, worked, and dreamed of the future. Now they were all silent. The silence had started 7 days ago. First, the mining colony on Kepler 442b stopped responding to routine check-ins. The communication officers thought it was just equipment failure. These things happened in deep space. Then Proxima Station went quiet. Then the research outpost near Wolf 359. One by one, like lights going out in a dark room, every human settlement beyond Earth's solar system had simply stopped talking. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Torres, his voice shaking slightly, "we've tried everything. Emergency frequencies, quantum burst transmissions, even old radio signals. Nothing. It's like they just disappeared." Chen had been in space for 30 years. She had seen pirates, equipment failures, solar storms, and every kind of disaster that could hit a colony. But this was different. This was all of them at once. Over 2 million people couldn't just vanish. "Prepare the emergency fleet," she ordered. "We're going to find out what happened." The fleet that left Earth 3 days later was the largest humanity had ever assembled. 12 warships, 8 medical vessels, and dozens of support craft, Chen commanded from the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's newest and most powerful ship. As they jumped through hyperspace toward the nearest colony, she tried not to think about her nephew Tommy, who had been stationed on the agricultural domes of Proxima Centauri C. Their first stop was the mining operation on Kepler 442b. The planet hung in space exactly where it should be, but something was wrong. The orbital platforms that should have been buzzing with activity were dark. As they got closer, Chen felt her stomach drop. The platforms were gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, gone. Where massive mining stations should have been floating in orbit, there was nothing but twisted metal debris spinning slowly in the void. The metal looked strange, like it had been melted and then instantly frozen. "Take us down to the surface," Chen ordered. What they found on the planet's surface made her crew gasp in horror. The mining settlements that had housed 50,000 people were simply craters in the ground. Perfect circular craters, as if someone had used a giant eraser to remove everything human from the world. The ground itself was turned to glass, smooth and black. Dr. Martinez, the fleet's chief scientist, ran his scanners over the site. "Admiral, this wasn't any weapon we know about. The energy readings are off the charts, but there's no radiation, no chemical residue. It's like something just deleted everything." They found the same thing at Proxima Station. The space habitat that had been home to 80,000 colonists was reduced to a cloud of metallic dust. The planet below showed the same perfect craters where human cities used to be. Every building, every person, every piece of human technology, gone. At Wolf 359, they finally found something different. The research station was mostly destroyed, but part of it was still intact. Chen led the boarding party herself, floating through corridors that should have been full of scientists but were now cold and empty. They found the station's AI core deep in the central section. Emergency power was still running, and the artificial intelligence was trying to send out a distress signal on repeat. When Dr. Martinez connected to the core, the AI's message played through their speakers. "Emergency log, Wolf 359 Research Station, Day 7 of the attack. They came out of nowhere. Ships unlike anything in our databases. Crystalline structures that seemed to bend space around them. They didn't respond to any of our attempts at communication. They just started erasing us." The AI's voice was calm, but Chen could hear the desperation underneath. "The weapons they use don't destroy matter. They convert it directly to energy. Our shields, our hulls, our people, everything just becomes light and heat. I estimate 97% of station personnel are dead or missing. The remaining 3% are in the deep shelter, but their life support is failing." Chen's heart jumped. "Survivors?" The message continued. "I have recorded everything I could about the attackers. Energy signatures, ship configurations, movement patterns. If anyone receives this, know that they showed no interest in negotiation, no interest in our resources or technology. They simply eliminated every trace of human presence and then left." The attack lasted exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. Then they vanished into folded space the same way they arrived. The deep shelter was empty when they reached it. Life support had failed 2 days ago. Dr. Martinez spent hours analyzing the AI's data. When he finally came to Chen with his report, his face was pale. "Admiral, these energy signatures, They're not from our galaxy. The quantum resonance patterns are completely alien, and based on the AI's recordings, these ships can fold space-time itself. They're not just advanced. They're operating on principles of physics we barely understand. Chen stared at the data scrolling across her screen. How many ships? The AI counted 47 vessels in the attack group. But Admiral, that might just be one small fleet. If they have this kind of technology, they could have hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. That night, Chen stood alone on the observation deck of the Defiance, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the beings who had murdered her nephew and 2 million other humans were probably attacking someone else. They had come to human space like exterminators dealing with insects, efficient and emotionless. The worst part was the complete silence they had left behind. No demands, no warnings, no explanation. They had simply decided that humans didn't deserve to exist beyond Earth, and they had acted on that decision with terrifying efficiency. Chen activated her communicator to send a message back to Earth Command. This is Admiral Chen reporting from Wolf 359. All colonies have been destroyed by unknown alien forces. No survivors found. Total casualties estimated at 2.3 million. The attackers possessed technology far beyond our current capabilities and showed no interest in communication or negotiation. She paused, thinking about Tommy's last message to her, excited about the new greenhouse domes he was helping to build. Recommend immediate activation of all defense protocols. These beings view human expansion as something to be prevented. They may return to finish what they started. As the fleet began its journey back to Earth, Chen made a decision that would change humanity forever. She gathered her senior officers in the briefing room and looked each of them in the eye. We're going to find them, she said simply. I don't care how advanced they are or where they come from. They killed our people without warning, without mercy, without even the courtesy of telling us why. That's not going to stand. Commander Jiang, her second-in-command, nodded grimly. What are your orders, Admiral? Chen turned back to the display showing the locations of the destroyed colonies. We're going to learn everything we can about their technology. We're going to build ships that can fight them, and we're going to hunt them down. Every single one of them is going to pay for what they did to our people. The journey back to Earth took 6 days. 6 days for the news to spread, for the grief to turn to anger, for humanity to realize that they were no longer alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors had just declared war on the human race. When the fleet finally reached Earth orbit, Chen could see the shipyards already working at full capacity. Humanity had received her message. They were getting ready to fight back. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the underground laboratory buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at readings that shouldn't exist. The quantum signatures from the alien attacks were unlike anything in human science. The energy patterns seemed to follow rules that contradicted everything he thought he knew about physics. His daughter Emma had been on Kepler 442b when the attack happened. She was a mining engineer, 26 years old, with plans to marry her boyfriend Jake when her tour ended. Now she was just another name on the list of 2.3 million dead. Webb hadn't slept properly in the 2 weeks since Admiral Chen's fleet returned with the news. Doctor, you need to see this, called Dr. Yamamoto from across the lab. She was bent over a quantum analyzer, her face lit by the blue glow of the displays. I think I found something. Webb walked over, his coffee cup shaking slightly in his tired hands. The lab was part of Project Prometheus, humanity's most secret military research program. Before the attacks, they had been working on theoretical weapons and defensive systems. Now their work had become the most important project in human history. Look at this pattern, Yamamoto said, pointing to the screen. The alien space-folding technology leaves a quantum wake, like a boat moving through water. The wake fades, but not immediately. If we can build sensors sensitive enough, we might be able to track them. Webb leaned closer. The mathematics were complex, but the idea was simple. When the alien ships folded space to travel, they left tiny disruptions in the quantum field. These disruptions were so small that normal sensors couldn't detect them, but they were there. How long does the wake last? He asked. That's the good news. Based on these readings, maybe 6 months, maybe longer if we get lucky. Webb felt his first moment of hope since Emma's death. Can we follow it? If we can build the right equipment, yes. But Marcus, Yamamoto's expression grew serious. This isn't just about tracking them. If we can understand how their space folding works, we might be able to disrupt it, maybe even turn it against them. 3 floors above the lab, Captain Elena Vasquez was reviewing the specifications for humanity's new hunter-killer fleet. The ships were unlike anything humans had built before. Sleek black vessels designed for one purpose: finding the aliens and destroying them. The design team had worked around the clock for 2 weeks, using every piece of data from the colony attacks. The ships carried the most advanced weapons humanity could build, plus new systems based on the aliens' quantum signatures. If Dr. Webb's team could crack the secret of alien technology, these ships would be ready to use it. Vasquez had volunteered to command the fleet the moment she heard about the project. She had been a fighter pilot for 15 years, and she understood something that the politicians didn't seem to grasp. This wasn't about defense anymore. The aliens had shown they could destroy human colonies whenever they wanted. The only way to protect Earth was to make sure the aliens couldn't attack again. Ever. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park, one of her new officers, "we've received new intelligence from the deep space monitoring stations. There's been another attack." Vasquez felt her blood turn cold. "Where?" "Not on humans, ma'am. We're picking up radio signals from a system near Wolf 359. The signals are alien, but not from the same species that attacked us. The transmission started 3 days ago, but they're getting weaker." Vasquez grabbed the data pad and read the report. The signals were clearly artificial, following mathematical patterns that suggested intelligence. But they were distress calls. Someone else was under attack. She ran to find Admiral Chen, who was in a meeting with the leaders of Project Prometheus. When Vasquez burst into the conference room, Chen looked up with tired eyes. "Admiral, we found them," Vasquez said, breathing hard. "The aliens who destroyed our colonies. They're attacking another species right now." The room went silent. Dr. Webb stood up slowly. "You're sure it's the same attackers?" "The quantum signatures match perfectly. The same energy patterns, the same space-folding technology. They're in the Wolf 359 system, and they're destroying another civilization." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady and cold. "How long until our new ships are ready?" "The first squadron finished testing yesterday," Vasquez replied. 12 ships fully armed and equipped with Dr. Webb's new tracking systems. Chen nodded. "Then we launch immediately. If these aliens think they can continue their genocide while we sit and watch, they're about to learn they're wrong." The meeting broke up quickly. Within 6 hours, the hunter-killer fleet was ready to depart. The ships were beautiful and deadly, their black hulls covered with sensors designed to track quantum disturbances. They carried crews of volunteers, men and women who had lost friends or family in the colony attacks. Dr. Webb insisted on coming along. His expertise might be needed if they encountered alien technology. As the fleet prepared to leave Earth orbit, he stood on the bridge of the lead ship, the UES Vengeance, and thought about Emma. She had always said that the colonies were humanity's future, that spreading to the stars was the most important thing the species could do. The aliens had tried to end that future. Now it was time to make them pay for their mistake. The journey to Wolf 359 took 18 hours using humanity's fastest hyperspace drives. As they approached the system, the fleet's sensors immediately detected the quantum signatures of alien ships. There were dozens of them arranged in perfect formation around a blue-green planet. "My God," whispered Captain Vasquez from the command chair. "Look at what they're doing." On the main screen they could see the planet below. Cities were burning. Massive energy beams lanced down from the alien ships, turning entire continents into fields of glass. It was exactly what had happened to the human colonies, but this time they were watching it happen in real time. "How many ships?" Admiral Chen asked over the communication channel. 43 vessels, reported the sensor officer. "Same configuration as the ships that attacked our colonies. They're systematically destroying every population center on the planet." Dr. Webb studied the alien ship designs on his scanner. The vessels were beautiful in a terrifying way, made of what looked like living crystal that reflected starlight in impossible colors. They moved through space like they were swimming through water, bending reality around them. "Admiral," said Vasquez, "we're detecting life signs on the planet's surface. Millions of them. These aliens are committing genocide right in front of us." Chen's response was immediate. "All ships prepare for attack. Target the largest alien vessels first. Show them what happens when they murder innocent people." The battle began without warning. Humanity's ships dropped out of hyperspace in attack formation, their weapons already charging. The aliens had been focused on destroying the planet below. They weren't expecting a fight. Vasquez led the first attack run, her ship diving toward the nearest alien vessel. The crystal ship was 3 times larger than her fighter, but it was slow to react. Her missiles struck its hull and exploded, sending rainbow fragments spinning into space. The alien ship began to turn toward her, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. They swarmed around the crystal vessels like angry wasps, striking from multiple directions at once. "Their shields are strong," reported one of the pilots. "But they're not designed for this kind of attack. They're used to fighting enemies that stand still and let themselves be destroyed." The aliens tried to use their space-folding technology to escape, but Dr. Webb had anticipated this. "Activate the quantum disruptors," he ordered. "Don't let them fold space." New weapons built from the wreckage of human colonies fired invisible beams that disrupted the quantum fields around the alien ships. Suddenly, the crystal vessels found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to escape or maneuver effectively. What followed was a massacre. The alien ships, designed to destroy helpless colonies, were no match for human warships built specifically to hunt them. One by one, the crystal vessels exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their exotic matter returning to energy. When the last alien ship was destroyed, the human fleet hung in space above the burning planet. They had won their first victory, but the cost was clear. The world below was dying, its cities destroyed, its population reduced to scattered survivors. "This is what they do," Admiral Chen said over the fleet communication channel.
"This is what they did to our people."
"Now they know that humanity fights back." Captain Vasquez looked at the debris field where the alien ships had been. "What's our next move, Admiral?" Chen was quiet for a moment, studying the quantum trail the aliens had left behind. "We follow them home," she said finally. "Every ship, every base, every world they have. We're going to end this war the only way it can end." Dr. Webb understood what she meant. This wasn't about defense anymore. This was about making sure the aliens could never hurt anyone again. The hunt had begun. The surviving aliens from the Wolf 359 battle had managed to send a message before their ships were destroyed. Captain Vasquez knew this because her fleet's new quantum sensors had detected the transmission burst just before the last crystal ship exploded. Somewhere in the galaxy, their enemies now knew that humanity could fight back. That knowledge filled her with savage satisfaction. The species they had saved called themselves the Zenthari. They were peaceful creatures that looked like tall, slender humans with silver skin and large, dark eyes. Their technology was advanced but focused on exploration and art, not war. They had been completely defenseless against the crystal ships. Dr. Webb worked with the Zenthari survivors to understand what had happened. Through translation devices, the aliens told a story that made his blood run cold. The attackers called themselves the Vexhi, and they had been destroying civilizations across the galaxy for millions of years. "They come without warning," explained Zenthari Elder Kethvar through the translator. "They do not seek resources or territory. They simply eliminate what they call organic contamination from the galaxy. We are the 700th species they have destroyed. You humans would have been 701. Webb felt sick. 700 species. Billions, maybe trillions of beings all dead because the Vexhi decided organic life was somehow wrong. His daughter Emma had been killed not for any reason humans could understand, but because aliens with crystal ships thought life itself was a mistake. "How do we find them?" he asked. Kethvar's large eyes grew even larger. "Find them? You do not find the Vexhi. They find you when they decide your time has come. No species has ever hunted them successfully. No species ever had quantum tracking technology," Webb replied grimly. Admiral Chen arrived in the Zenthari system 3 days later with the full human fleet. 50 ships now, including the new vessels built in Earth's orbital shipyards. She stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and listened to Dr. Webb's report about the Vexhi. 700 species, she repeated quietly. "How is that possible?" "They're old, Admiral." "Really old." "The Zenthari think they've been active for at least 10 million years. They move slowly, taking centuries or millennia between attacks. They probably see organic life as a temporary infestation that needs to be cleaned up periodically." Chen stared at the tactical display showing the devastated Zenthari worlds, and they think they can just add humanity to their list. "The Zenthari have given us location data on recent Vexhi attacks," Webb continued. "If our tracking technology works, we should be able to follow their quantum trail to other systems. Maybe even find their home base." That evening, Chen called a meeting of all her ship commanders. The briefing room aboard the Vengeance was packed with officers who had volunteered for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. These were people who had lost family in the colony attacks, people who understood that Earth's survival might depend on making the Vexhi too afraid to attack humanity again. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "we've learned that our enemy has been committing genocide for millions of years. They've destroyed 700 civilizations without ever facing serious resistance. That changes today." She activated the holographic display, showing star charts marked with the locations of recent Vexhi attacks. Dr. Webb's team has identified quantum trails leading from this system to at least 3 other locations. "We're going to follow those trails and engage every Vexhi force we find." Captain Martinez, commander of the destroyer Retribution, raised her hand. "Admiral, what if we find their main fleet? The intelligence suggests they might have thousands of ships." Chen's smile was cold. "Then we'll find out how much damage 50 human ships can do before we're destroyed. But I don't think it will come to that. The Vexhi have been winning through superior technology and the element of surprise. They've never fought an enemy that could track them, predict their movements, and adapt to their tactics." The hunt that followed lasted 3 months. Using Dr. Webb's quantum tracking systems, the human fleet followed Vexhi trails across dozens of star systems. They found more destroyed worlds, more evidence of systematic genocide, and twice they caught Vexhi fleets in the act of destroying other species. Each battle taught humanity something new about their enemy. The Vexhi ships were individually superior to anything humans could build, but they fought like machines, following predictable patterns. They expected their victims to stand still and die. When faced with human tactics, coordinated swarm attacks, kamikaze runs, and weapons designed to exploit quantum vulnerabilities, they couldn't adapt quickly enough. The turning point came in the Rigel system, where human scouts detected the largest Vexhi fleet yet encountered. 80 crystal ships were systematically destroying the worlds of an insectoid species called the Krillians. The aliens were using their space-folding technology to appear and disappear around the planet, making it impossible for the defenders to fight back effectively. "This is it," Admiral Chen announced to her fleet. "If we can defeat a force this size, we send a message that humanity won't be pushed around. If we lose," she paused, "if we lose, Earth will know we died fighting." The battle began with Captain Vasquez leading a stealth attack on the Vexhi command ship. Her squadron used new cloaking technology reverse-engineered from captured alien sensors. They managed to get within weapon range before the Vexhi detected them. The command ship was massive, 3 miles long and covered with the strange crystal formations that seemed to be both armor and weapons. Vasquez's missile struck its central section, and for the first time, human forces heard a Vexhi communication. The sound was like breaking glass mixed with electronic static. Dr. Webb's translation computers couldn't decode it, but the meaning was clear from the aliens' response. Every Vexhi ship in the system immediately turned away from the planet and focused on the human fleet. "They're angry," Vasquez reported with satisfaction. "Good. Angry enemies make mistakes. The Vexhi attacked with everything they had. Energy beams that could turn matter into plasma, quantum disruptors that tried to tear human ships apart at the molecular level, and space-folding weapons that attempted to teleport pieces of human vessels into the heart of nearby stars." But humanity had been preparing for this fight for months. Their ships carried new armor made from crystallized alien materials, quantum shields that could deflect energy weapons, and most importantly, the determination that came from fighting for the survival of their species. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 47 Vexhi ships had been destroyed, including their command vessel. The human fleet had lost 12 ships and nearly 3,000 crew members, but they had achieved something no species had done in millions of years. They had defeated a major Vexhi force. Among the wreckage, they found something even more valuable than victory. 3 Vexhi ships had been disabled rather than destroyed, their crews still alive. For the first time in the war, humanity had prisoners. Dr. Webb led the boarding party that captured the aliens. The Vexhi themselves were as strange as their ships, tall crystalline beings that seemed to be made of living mineral. They moved slowly and spoke in harmonic frequencies that hurt human ears. Using neural interface technology borrowed from the Zenthari, Webb managed to establish limited communication with the captured Vexhi commander. What he learned changed everything humanity thought they knew about the war. The Vexhi didn't see themselves as conquerors or even as warriors. They were, in their own minds, caretakers of the galaxy. Organic life was viewed as a contamination, a temporary infection that needed to be cleaned up to maintain galactic purity. Your species will be terminated efficiently, the alien commander communicated through the neural link. Your colonies have already been processed. Why do you not accept this outcome and continue your existence in your birth system? Webb stared at the crystal being, trying to understand its logic. You murdered 2.3 million of our people. Our children, our families, our friends. You expect us to just accept that? The concept seemed completely alien to the Vexi. Processed organic units cannot suffer. Efficient termination is preferable to slow decay. Your resistance causes unnecessary energy expenditure. They don't understand, Webb reported to Admiral Chen later. They literally cannot comprehend why we're fighting back. The idea that we might want revenge for our dead, or that we might fight to protect future victims, it's completely outside their experience. Chen listened to the recording of Webb's conversation with the Vexi commander. When it finished, she was quiet for a long time. Admiral? Vasquez asked. What are your orders? Chen looked at the tactical display showing the Rigel system, where Krillian survivors were already beginning to rebuild their shattered cities. We're going to give them an education they'll never forget, she said finally. Prepare the captured ship for launch. Load it with our most powerful explosives. Admiral, we're going to send their commander home with a message, Chen explained. If they can't understand why we're fighting, maybe they'll understand what we're fighting with. The Vexi ship was launched toward their home territory 12 hours later. Its cargo hold contained enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. The Vexi homeworld received humanity's message exactly 72 hours after the ship carrying the antimatter bomb reached their space. Dr. Webb knew this because every Vexi fleet in the galaxy suddenly changed direction and began moving toward human-controlled systems. They understood, he told Admiral Chen as they watched the tactical displays in the Vengeance's command center. Every ship they have is now hunting us, Chen smiled grimly. Good. That means they're not attacking anyone else. What followed was unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen. The Vexi had fought for millions of years, but their battles had always been one-sided massacres of helpless civilizations. They had never faced an enemy that could track their movements, predict their tactics, and adapt faster than they could respond. Humanity turned the vastness of space into their weapon. Using the quantum tracking technology Dr. Webb had perfected, human fleets appeared in dozens of star systems simultaneously, striking at Vexi forces before vanishing back into hyperspace. They didn't try to hold territory or capture resources. They simply hunted. Captain Vasquez had been promoted to admiral after the victory at Rigel. She now commanded a battle group of 30 ships, all crewed by volunteers who had lost someone in the original colony attacks. Her tactics were brutal and effective. Find a Vexi fleet, destroy as many ships as possible, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. The Vexi tried to adapt, but their crystalline minds couldn't comprehend human psychology. They expected logical, predictable behavior from their enemies. Instead, they faced an opponent driven by grief, anger, and a desire for justice that made no sense to them. At the Battle of Kepler 1649, Vasquez's fleet faced a Vexi force twice their size. Instead of retreating, she ordered her ships to ramming speed. The human vessels, loaded with experimental antimatter weapons, crashed into the crystal ships like missiles. The explosions destroyed both fleets, but the Vexi lost more ships and couldn't replace them as quickly. Every battle costs them more than they can afford, Dr. Webb explained to the Earth Defense Council via hyperspace communication. They're used to overwhelming technological superiority. When that advantage is removed, they don't know how to fight efficiently. Meanwhile, other alien species across the galaxy watched in amazement as the newcomers systematically dismantled an empire that had terrorized them for eons. The Zenthari, whose homeworld humanity had helped save, provided intelligence on Vexi movements. The insectoid Krillians offered their services as scouts and engineers. Even the energy-based Solari Collective, beings of pure thought who rarely involved themselves in physical conflicts, began sharing information about Vexi activities in their region of space. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy's younger races had hope. The war's momentum shifted when Dr. Webb made his greatest breakthrough. Working with captured Vexi technology and the help of alien scientists, He discovered the quantum frequency that held the crystalline beings' bodies together. If that frequency could be disrupted, the HFY would literally fall apart at the molecular level. The development of the quantum cascade weapon took 6 months and required resources from dozens of star systems. The final device was elegant in its simplicity, a torpedo-sized missile that could destabilize the quantum matrix of any crystalline structure within a 50-kilometer radius. The first test was conducted against a disabled HFY cruiser in an empty system. When the weapon activated, the 3-mile-long ship simply ceased to exist. Its crystalline hull converted back to base energy, creating a brief nova that was visible from neighboring star systems. "It's perfect," Webb told Admiral Chen. "We can turn their own quantum mastery against them." The weapon was immediately put into mass production. Within weeks, every human ship carried quantum cascade torpedoes. The psychological effect on the HFY was devastating. For the first time in their ancient history, they faced weapons that could destroy them as efficiently as they destroyed others. The HFY response was to retreat to their core territories and begin preparing for a final battle. Their scattered fleets pulled back from the galactic rim, abandoning systems they had controlled for millennia. They were gathering their forces for one massive strike against Earth itself. Admiral Chen received this intelligence from Xanthari scouts and immediately began her own preparations. "They want to end this war by destroying our homeworld," she told her fleet commanders. "We're going to end it by destroying theirs." The human fleet that assembled for the final assault was the largest in the species' history. 200 ships from Earth, plus vessels contributed by every alien race that had suffered under HFY rule. The Xanthari provided their fastest scouts. The Krillians contributed heavy assault craft. The Solari Collective shared their knowledge of HFY defensive systems, but the core of the fleet was human. Ships named for the colonies that had been destroyed: the UES Kepler, the UES Proxima, the UES Wolf 359. Each vessel carried the names of the dead inscribed on its hull, and crews who fought not just for victory, but for justice. Dr. Webb had enhanced himself with HFY neural implants, allowing him to process quantum mathematics at superhuman speeds. The modifications were dangerous and probably irreversible, but they gave him the ability to coordinate quantum cascade weapons on a massive scale. "I can link every weapon in the fleet," he explained to Admiral Chen. "When we reach their homeworld, we can create a cascade effect that will destabilize every HFY structure in the system simultaneously." Chen studied the tactical projections. The HFY homeworld was surrounded by massive defensive platforms, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. The quantum cascade weapons would eliminate those platforms, but only if the human fleet could get close enough to use them. "It'll be a suicide run," she said finally. "We'll lose most of the fleet just reaching firing range." "The volunteers understand," replied Admiral Vasquez. "Every person in this fleet lost someone to the HFY. They're ready to die if it means ending this war." The journey to the HFY core systems took 3 weeks. Along the way, they passed the wreckage of civilizations that had been destroyed millions of years ago. Dead worlds, asteroid fields that had once been planets, empty space where star systems had been completely erased. "This is what they do," Chen said, addressing the entire fleet as they approached their target. "This is what they've been doing since before humans existed. Today we make sure they never do it again." The HFY homeworld was unlike anything in human experience. Instead of a planet, it was a construct the size of a moon, made entirely of the same crystal material as their ships. It hung in space like a massive jewel, surrounded by defensive platforms that could fold space itself to redirect attacks. The battle began before the human fleet even entered the system. HFY ships appeared out of folded space, striking at the Allied forces with weapons that could tear apart matter at the quantum level. The first wave of attackers lost 30 ships in as many seconds, but humanity had learned from every previous battle. The fleet scattered into attack formations that the HFY couldn't predict or counter. Instead of fighting as a unified force, they became a swarm of individual threats, each ship acting independently while working toward the same goal. Admiral Vasquez led the first assault on the defensive platforms. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was one of the newest in the fleet, covered with quantum shields and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity could build. She drove straight at the nearest platform, her guns blazing. The platform's defenses were incredible. energy beams that could vaporize matter, gravity weapons that tried to crush her ship into a singularity, and space-folding attacks that attempted to teleport pieces of her vessel into the heart of nearby stars. But human engineering had been built specifically to survive this kind of assault. All ships quantum cascade weapons armed, Dr. Webb announced over the fleet channel. His voice sounded strange, distorted by the alien neural implants that were slowly changing his brain. Target acquired. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The coordinated salvo of quantum cascade weapons struck the Vex-High homeworld like the hammer of an angry god. The crystalline structure of the moonworld began to destabilize, its quantum matrix unraveling as the cascade effect spread through its entire mass. But the Vex-High had one final surprise. As their homeworld began to collapse, they activated a weapon that had been built into its core. A quantum bomb capable of destroying everything within a light-year radius. All ships, emergency jump. Admiral Chen ordered.
Get clear now.
Most of the human fleet managed to escape to hyperspace before the explosion. When the quantum bomb detonated, it created a new nebula visible from hundreds of star systems. The Vex-High homeworld, their defensive platforms, and the remnants of their ancient fleet were all converted to glowing gas and radiation. The war was over. After millions of years of genocide, the Vex-High had been completely destroyed. But the victory had cost humanity dearly. 50 ships and 15,000 crew members had been lost in the final battle. As the surviving fleet returned to Earth, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and thought about the price of justice. Humanity had saved the galaxy from an ancient evil, but they had been forever changed by the experience. 5 years after the destruction of the Vex-High homeworld, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the memorial garden on Luna Station, reading the names carved into black stone. 2.3 million names from the original colony attacks, plus another 47,000 who had died in the war that followed. Each name represented a life cut short, a future stolen by beings who saw organic life as contamination to be cleaned. Her nephew Tommy's name was there, along with Dr. Webb's daughter Emma, and thousands of others who had been murdered simply for being human. The memorial was beautiful and peaceful, but Chen knew it represented something much darker. Humanity's transformation from explorers to warriors. "Admiral," said Captain Morrison, her current aide, "the Council is ready for your report." Chen nodded and walked toward the conference room where Earth's leaders waited to hear about the latest developments in what the media called the Colonial Memorial Force. It was humanity's new role in the galaxy. Protector, guardian, and when necessary, destroyer of those who threatened innocent life. The war had ended with the annihilation of the Vex-High, but peace had brought new challenges. Dozens of alien species, freed from millions of years of fear, were expanding into space for the first time. Some were peaceful, like the Xanthari. Others were aggressive, testing the new balance of power now that the galaxy's ancient tyrants were gone. Humanity had become the unofficial police force that kept the peace. The situation in the Arcturus sector is stabilizing. Chen reported to the Council. The Krone Empire was attempting to enslave the Pelian colonies, but a show of force by the Memorial Fleet convinced them to negotiate instead. Councillor Harrison, an elderly man who had been a politician before the war, leaned forward. "Admiral, some of our allies are concerned about humanity's role in galactic affairs. They worry we're becoming too much like the Vex-High." Chen felt a flash of anger. "Counselor, with respect, the Vex-High committed genocide for sport. We protect species from extinction." "There's a difference, is there?" asked Counselor Martinez. "We have the largest fleet in the galaxy, weapons that can destroy entire star systems, and a reputation for ruthlessness that makes potential aggressors think twice before acting. How are we different from the Empire we replaced?" The question hung in the air. Chen had asked herself the same thing many times during sleepless nights aboard her ship. The war against the Vex-High had changed humanity in ways that still weren't fully understood. They had developed technologies that previous generations would have considered impossible, weapons that could unmake matter itself, and most importantly, the will to use them. "The difference," Chen said finally, "is choice. The Vex-High never offered their victims a chance to surrender, to negotiate, or to coexist. Every encounter we have begins with an attempt at peaceful resolution. Force is used only when diplomacy fails." She activated the holographic display. showing incident reports from across the galaxy. Last month, we prevented the hegemony from strip mining an inhabited world. We did it by parking a single destroyer in orbit and asking them to reconsider. They left without a shot being fired. And when asking doesn't work? Pressed Counselor Harrison. Chen's expression hardened. Then we remind them why asking is the better option. The meeting continued for another hour, covering budget allocations, fleet deployments, and diplomatic protocols. When it ended, Chen walked back to the memorial garden, where she found Dr. Marcus Webb sitting on one of the benches. Webb looked older than his years. The HFY neural implants he had used during the war had changed him in ways that medical science still didn't fully understand. His hair had turned white, his eyes had taken on a strange crystalline quality, and he could process quantum mathematics faster than most computers. The modifications had saved humanity, but they had cost him his humanity in return. "How did the meeting go?" he asked without looking up from the names on the wall. "The usual concerns about humanity becoming too powerful," Chen replied, sitting down beside him. "They want us to protect the galaxy, but they're afraid of what we've become." Webb nodded slowly. "Emma would have turned 31 last week," he said quietly. "She was planning to have children when her tour ended. A whole family line that will never exist because the HFY decided humans didn't belong among the stars." Chen had no answer for that. The mathematics of loss were simple but terrible. Every person killed in the colony attacks represented not just one death, but the deaths of all their potential descendants. The HFY hadn't just murdered 2.3 million people, they had erased millions of future lives. "Do you ever regret what we did?" she asked. Webb considered the question. "Destroying the HFY? Never. They were a cancer that had been killing the galaxy for millions of years. Someone had to stop them." He paused. "But I regret what it cost us. We saved the galaxy, but we lost our innocence doing it." A message alert interrupted their conversation. Chen checked her communicator and frowned. "Emergency signal from the Kepler system. Something's attacking the new colonies." Within an hour, Chen was aboard the UES Vengeance, leading a task force toward humanity's rebuilt settlements. The colonies had been re-established 3 years ago, with massive defensive systems and a permanent fleet presence. If something was threatening them, it wasn't ordinary pirates or raiders. As they approached Kepler 442b, the fleet's sensors detected energy signatures that made Chen's blood run cold. They were similar to HFY technology, but different enough to suggest a new threat. On the planet below, several mining platforms were under attack by ships that seemed to be made of living metal. "New contact, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Torres. "They're not responding to any attempts at communication." Chen studied the tactical display. The attacking ships were smaller than HFY vessels, but moved with the same fluid grace. Their weapons were different too. Instead of converting matter to energy, they seemed to be consuming it, breaking down human structures and absorbing the materials. "All ships attack formation," she ordered. "These colonies have been paid for in blood. No one else gets to destroy them." The battle was brief but intense. The alien ships were fast and well-armed, but they fought like individuals rather than a coordinated force. Human tactics, refined through years of war against the HFY, proved superior. Within an hour, the attackers had been destroyed or driven off. Among the wreckage, they found something disturbing. The alien ships contained technology that was clearly derived from HFY designs, but modified by a different intelligence. Someone had found HFY ruins and was trying to rebuild their empire. Dr. Webb analyzed the captured technology, while the fleet searched for more threats. His report was grim. "These aren't HFY survivors. The quantum signatures are wrong. But someone has been studying their technology and adapting it for their own use." "How many of them?" Chen asked. "Unknown. But Admiral, if they've mastered HFY space-folding technology, they could be anywhere in the galaxy. We might be facing the same kind of threat all over again." Chen stared at the tactical display showing the positions of human colonies, now marked with new defensive priorities. Humanity had spent 5 years building a peaceful future among the stars, but it seemed the galaxy wasn't ready to let them rest. "Double the patrols around all human settlements," she ordered. "If someone wants to follow in the HFY's footsteps, they're going to learn the same lesson we taught the originals." As the Vengeance set course for Earth, Chen thought about the conversation with the Council. They had worried about humanity becoming too much like the HFY, but they didn't understand the real difference. The Vexi had seen themselves as superior beings with the right to decide which species lived or died. Humanity saw themselves as guards, protectors of the weak against the strong. It was a crucial distinction, but Chen wondered if future generations would remember it. Power had a way of corrupting even the best intentions. The war against the Vexi had given humanity incredible weapons and the will to use them. Those tools had saved the galaxy once, but they could just as easily destroy it if they fell into the wrong hands. The Memorial Garden on Luna Station held 2.3 million names, each one a reminder of why humanity fought. But Chen knew that number would grow. There would always be new threats, new enemies who needed to be stopped. The price of peace was eternal vigilance, and humanity had proven they were willing to pay that price. The colonies that had been destroyed were being rebuilt, stronger and better defended than before. New settlements were spreading across the galaxy, carrying human dreams and human determination to distant stars. The Vexi had tried to end humanity's expansion into space, but they had only made it stronger. Standing on the bridge of the Vengeance as Earth grew larger in the view screen, Admiral Chen made a silent promise to the names on the memorial wall. Humanity would never again be caught defenseless. Whatever threats emerged from the darkness between the stars, they would find humans ready to fight back. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Organic life was not contamination to be cleaned up. It was something worth fighting for, worth dying for, and worth killing for, and humanity would make sure that lesson was never forgotten. Tommy, Emma, and 2.3 million others had not died in vain.